When I started my spiritual journey, or let's say when the spiritual journey started in case of me, I was never seeking enlightenment. My goal was never to seek any enlightenment. My only problem was that the thinking mind was dominant. And somehow I just wanted to quiet that. So, for that purpose, I started looking into different scriptures, different sources. And that was the time when I came across Buddha's teaching as well. And I got in touch with a practicing Buddhist, a master, who told me that, I asked him, like, how should I meditate to make my mind peaceful and quiet? So he gave me a lot of theories. And then he told me that you have to sit for long hours. And somehow you have to endure the pain, because behind that pain is your freedom. And of course, I took his words seriously and I started doing that. So for a very long time, I started doing meditation for long hours. Now, the problem was that the body doesn't cooperate that well. And especially if, one comes from a background where one may not have been able, may not be in a position to sit for long hours. Like if, or in my case, most of my work would be sitting on a desk when I was working. So I did not have that kind of flexibility to sit for long hours in cross leg postures. Even today, I don't have that flexibility. So what used to happen was that now I forced myself to sit cross leg, and then my attention would start going to pain, numbing of the legs, back pain. And the entire duration of meditation used to go in the worry that I have to endure the pain. Up to a point when my back really gave out and my knee started hurting. It was then that I realized that this is not perhaps the answer. And also that this goes contrary to what Buddha taught. Because Buddha had done all of this. He had followed the path of strict asceticism, and he had also seen unlimited pleasures, being a son of a king. So he came up with the middle path. And somehow that was not acceptable to many people who were there around him, because there is a story which I heard from Osho, which was that, Buddha was literally reduced to bones with the practice that he was continuing. And then he saw a woman passing by carrying that vessel, the matka, what you call that in English, that matka on her head, the vessel on her head, which had milk. And with a very frail voice, Buddha said, "Please, can I have some milk?" And the woman saw that this person is literally dying of thirst. And so she was kind enough to give him a bowl of milk, which he had at that time. But seeing this, some people were upset, because for them, this was diversion from the path. And somehow we have got this idea that even enlightenment or self-realization, or give it whatever name you want, liberation, moksha, that has to be attained through effort, just like any other thing in the world. Now, any worldly thing can be achieved with effort. You can become the greatest, the best, whatever you want to become, using effort. But the question is, does it really give you what you really want? When I started my job, I used to think that my life will be amazing when I become a project manager. That used to be my dream, becoming a project manager. And I worked, I literally became a workaholic. I would work for 18 hours. There were times when I would work even for 20 hours, only 4 hours of sleep at night. I would be sleeping in the office. There were instances. And I became the project manager. And I saw how miserable I was after becoming the project manager. Because then it was not good enough. The moment I reached that place, then I saw that there are people like presidents, vice presidents, CEO. Now I wanted to become the CEO. So you see, a similar type of pattern can even happen in spiritual seeking. It starts with becoming a better seeker, and then it propagates further in horizontal time as becoming the realized seeker, the seeker of enlightenment. So Ramesh Balsekar would say, what is it that enlightenment is going to give you that you have not experienced before? If you are waiting for an experience, you are just looking at the past, because there is no newness to any experience. If you see image of Krishna, if you see image of Buddha or Jesus, those are images that you have seen before. If you see light, colored lights, anything that you see, feel, is something which you have already experienced before. It's just that it's rearranged in a new way and presented as something new. But there is no newness to any experience. But what we miss, usually in search of experiences and chase of experiences, is the background awareness which is illuminating all these experiences. The recognition of that can be said to be true enlightenment. Because, when Ramana Maharshi says consciousness is all there is, or when Ramesh Balsekar says the same, what does that mean? What is the meaning of consciousness is all there is? It means that all there is the will of God. The very first time I heard this, it was absolutely clear. No doubt, no thoughts. The mind became still in that moment. If you don't like to use the words will of God, you can replace it with cosmic law, or as modern non-dual teachers say, what is apparently happening. What is apparently happening is beyond the knowledge of the finite minds. All the finite mind can do is to accept the way cosmic law operates and never to assume the cosmic law. A majority of conflicts, violence in the world that happens is when one assumes that they know the will of God. So Ramesh was very clear on this, and there was just one statement from him that the created object, the finite mind, can never know the will of the creator source. So the God is the source. And God here is not an all-powerful entity, separate entity in manifestation that is keeping a tab on its creation. It is simply this consciousness which is animating this very experience of aliveness. It is manifesting as you and me. The whole problem begins when, as a child, we are told, repeatedly reaffirmed about who we are. So when we make a mistake, we are told by our parents, why did you make a mistake? We are told by our teachers, we are taught by our relatives, by the people who are around us. So this sense of independent existence is not there in a child, in a newborn child. A newborn child is simply a biological organism which responds to stimuli. For a child, there is no separation with the mother. The child and mother are one. When the child is hungry, the child will cry and demand. But child will never think that why is the food not being given to me? Why is the milk not being provided to me? But as we age, after the age group of 1.5 to 2 years, slowly this sense of independent, separate existence is reinforced by the society. And there is nothing right or wrong about this. This is what is apparently happening. But this sense of separate existence starts expanding because the child believes itself to be a weak entity. And somehow there is this idea that I must strengthen myself to survive in the world. So the survival instinct kicks in and creates a fear. And that fear propagates in horizontal time as suffering. I must become this. I must become that. The whole idea of becoming, achieving, conquering, changing others, changing oneself is all the expansion of the sense of personal identification. While it is very natural for the mind and body to grow, growth is a natural process. It is a gift of nature. Whatever work you do, if you keep doing it consistently, you will become better. But when the sense of separate existence strengthens itself and says that I am becoming better, I have to grow more so that I become invincible, that is when the suffering arises. Because we have created a distance, a separation from the source. Whereas accepting God's will is the complete understanding that whatever happens, whether good or bad, it happens as per cosmic law. While the individual has the will to make a choice, Thank God that much discount is given. Individual has the ability to make a choice, but the result of that choice is not in our control. So even the idea of enlightenment traditionally sounds like this, that if one meditates more, that somehow there will be a state which will become a permanent state. But the nature of life is such that nothing here can become permanent. Body, breath, mind, sound, senses, people, relations, nothing is permanent. And this instrument, which we call the body, is a very fragile instrument. From the nature's point of view, it is inconsequential. It is nothing, absolutely. But the consciousness, that is your true nature, is already invincible. So there is nothing to be done to achieve enlightenment, because doing implies effort. Effort implies movement, and movement is mind. I often get emails, regarding this topic, and very often I'm asked, how do I surrender? Now the thing is there a way to surrender? How does when the war is going on and one side is defeated, how do they surrender? Is there a way to do that? They just raise their arms and put down their weapons. That's it. And then the message is clear that I'm not going to move. You do whatever you want to do. That is the surrender that happens to the ego when the sense of personal identification is destroyed. The ego simply stops the movement. Because, Ramesh put it very beautifully. He said that if I am not the doer of my actions, then who is this me? This was the question. Who is this me? Now, if an answer comes, then that is simply the continuation of the sense of personal identification. There can never be an answer to this question. It is simply accepted. The cosmic law is simply accepted. Okay, if anybody wants to share anything or ask, please feel free to. You can raise your hand or you can press the hand icon and I will unmute you. Okay. Yes, Shravanti.
I want to share something, not to
Yes.
ask questions.
Sure.
I love singing. So I used to sing a lot. That means I used to sing for 2 hours, 3 hours just by myself. And I love to do that because it feels so much freedom inside me. And somehow, whatever I do in the household work, there is no thinking mind. And in the singing also, there is no thinking mind. If I'm learning something in there also, thinking mind is not there. And somehow I felt that this is all doing. I have to be in being, and I have to stop all this. And I stopped everything. I stopped singing, and I became so deeply miserable person. And I'm gone waiting when I will get joy by just being. I was not getting it all. And yesterday I'm done. I can't live like this, and I stopped it. And you said today, it gives me so relief for me now.
That is true.
Okay, I can't what do something that others are doing. I have to be myself.
Yes.
And
Yes, sure. Go on.
uh, and some thoughts will come all the time that you are doing that, you are doing this, what is this? Some if I listen to something, oh, this is true, I have to follow this, and the pain starts. It happens all the time, and then I realize, and try to be myself. Like that, it always happens. Why is it so? I don't
Yes,
know.
yes. You know what? Now this is the great misconception that we deny ourselves the pleasures of the moment, thinking that we'll achieve something by doing that. Because somehow the traditional message comes across as this, that, you know, where music or pursuing art is seen as an indulgence. But you see, even the greatest saints or sages from the past have been singing songs, you know. So music is something which actually dissolves the uh, sense of separate existence. The only thing is that that only happens when you are immersed in the practice. So I think singing and art is something beautiful because the body has been designed in such a way to express creativity. It is not you who is initiating this, it is the universal energy that is flowing through you. Now, as I was mentioning earlier, that Buddha had tried all of this. He had seen great asceticism where he was denying himself all the pleasures, and he saw the futility of it. That is why he came to a middle path. So I don't think that, suppressing your natural urges, your talents, is going to give you any benefit, because this is all a natural flow of life. So thank you, Shravanti. That was a very insightful sharing. I mean, we don't have to deny ourselves any pleasures in the moment. Pleasures in the moment do not lead to suffering. What leads to suffering is the chasing of pleasure in horizontal time and craving the repeat of it to become better, to become greater. That process is not in our hands. How much better we become is decided by the nature and the circumstances. It is not decided by the individual. So keep singing.
Sure.
Right. Okay. Anyone else wants to ask anything? Okay. Yes, Mitesh.
Uh, can I speak in Hindi? Actually,
Okay. Okay.
yes, sir.
Please go on.
Uh, जब मेडिटेट करते हैं और थॉट्स को देखते हैं, तो जब थॉट्स को देखते हैं तो वापस वो एक बाइफर्केशन आता है कि दिस इज थॉट, कि मतलब ये थॉट है, तो वो थॉट भी एक वापस एक थॉट,
Yes.
कि वो थॉट भी एक वापस एक थॉट है, तो ये एक सर्कल कंटिन्यूस घूमते रहता है कि लाइक वही थॉट के
Exactly.
अंदर थॉट.
See,
सो
okay. So
हाउ
should
कैन,
should I answer that in English or yeah, Hindi mein main aapko
Yes, no, it's okay.
English is, I'm talking
I
in
can
English
understand.
because, yeah,
No,
because some
I can,
other people, no, from other regions may not be able to understand in Hindi. So,
no, I
Okay.
can understand the English. Thank you.
Okay. ठीक है जी, ठीक है, perfect.
Okay.
So you see, what happens is, of course, it is a thought which watches, okay, and then immediately there is a cutoff, and another thought comes in awareness. But you see, if you keep looking at it, at some point you start going into an infinite regression. You understand, one thought watching another thought, but who knows that thought? Then another thought comes, then who knows that thought? So slowly, what you will see is that you're actually coming to a place where the mind becomes still, completely still. So that, that is what Ramesh Balsekar calls the vertical thought, I am.
Okay.
So it is not that when we meditate that we kill the mind. We never kill the mind. The mind is there. It's just that when there is no movement, because it is the mind which keeps the separation between the thought and the thinker. So when the mind becomes still, the thought and the thinker become one as vertical thought I am.
Okay.
थोड़ा सा इस पे आप focus करना. Try to, it is difficult to grasp this intellectually. You can only, when you are in meditation, you will experience this silence. And the thing is that you only experience this as a very, very ordinary, very natural feeling of relaxation and calm. So there is no thought going on at that point, only that you feel relaxation, a sense of expansion. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll try.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, yes. Anyone else wants to ask something? Okay. Yes, Radhika. Radhika, I cannot hear you. One second. I think you are on mute. Oh, wait. You are unmuted, but I cannot hear you. Wait, let me mute and unmute you again. Wait. Yes, you are unmuted now. No, Radhika, I cannot hear you. I think there is something checks your speaker or something like that. You can do one thing. You can type your question in the chat if you want. Okay. Okay. We'll connect another time. I think I cannot hear you. Okay. Sorry. Hold on 1 second. Yes.
Now can you hear me?
Yes, now I can hear you. Yeah, tell me.
So the thing is, it was around 2019. I didn't had any effort to get this question of who am I. It just came by itself. Just a question of who am I. And I just typed it in Google. That time I got the answers. I was mad to type who am I in Google because I was not in any suffering as such. But I don't know why did it came to that that question also, I don't know why it arrived. And then I got this understanding of I am not this body, I am not this mind. Even now, I don't have that attachment with the body personally. But this I am not the mind. Yeah, I can see the thoughts, I can see the feelings, emotions, everything. In deep sleep, I know there is no mind. And morning I feel the freshness that I had actually a good sleep. But this experience of oneness, or when I see my father or when I see my mother, I go in that uh, eh, remembrance or the memory of I am seeing my father. I don't see him fresh, or not even when I see you. I don't see you fresh. I know that you are a seeker of, or you are a. I feel you are a self-realized person. This thing is in background, and I see you. So I don't know. See, who am I had come automatically without any effort. But now I am putting effort to know I am not this body, or I'm not this mind. Is it necessary to go in this phase, or I should surrender, or I should and the thing you said me of surrender, that thing also, I am not able to surrender. Maybe my I think is not giving up that surrender thing. I am not sure. I am just confused, or I am in the process of it, or it's like. And one more thing, if someone comes to me and tell about their sufferings or something like that, like this, usually female who are above 60, those people are more they tell what is this life. I have done so much, only so much. That time I feel like telling, see, there is nothing that you have done. It is what that time I can tell. But actually, that oneness experience, when I see you, I should feel that you and me are not separate, no sir. Or when I see anybody who is suffering, why do I tend to tell all this? I know I should not tell, but still I feel like, okay, maybe they'll get. I know later on they'll go outside and tell she is crazy. She speaks something else. That doesn't affect me. I know, but still, do I have to tell, or this is all a bit of almost confusion state?
Let the telling happen if it's happening. Let it happen the way it's happening. See, you see, this is your nature. You cannot fight your nature, right? That said, as this understanding deepens, a change happens by itself. You cannot force this change. Now, the thing is that when we are seeing each other in appearances, it is clear that there is a separation. It is not that I will say that, that I can just read your mind, or I cannot do that. I cannot defy the laws of nature in duality. The only thing is that consciousness is a recognition. It is an understanding, not a personal understanding. So when that recognition happens, what you will notice is that the concern with questions, with contemplations, with reflections will begin to drop down. And you will experience a sense of peace, a very sweet, natural peace in your heart. That is the only way to know. And you will know then there won't be any questions. You will know that this is it. What we do is, I was talking about this earlier, that the moment we try to chase it, chase this understanding, that is when we actually separate ourselves from it. So in your case, a spontaneous, natural inquiry happened and you typed in Google, who am I? Right? Believe me, Radhika, that is the fundamental inquiry of every human being on this planet. Every question other than this question is an illusion. Because everything stems from this question, who am I? Now we say, I am suffering, right? My life is not good. I have suffered so much, this and that. All of that comes from the sense of personal identification, or what I call as the me and my story. I create a story. I create baggages associated with that story. My doing, I did this, I did that. Now you understand a 60-year-old, a 70-year-old person who has been conditioned to believe this throughout their life, society trains us like this. As I started my lecture, it was basically, I was talking how the sense of personal identification comes about. As a child, you are told that you are the doer, and if you do right thing, you will be rewarded. If you do the wrong thing, you will be punished. And again, nothing good or bad about this. This is life. This is conditioning. It will happen to everyone without exception. There is nothing you can do to stop this process. But what happens is that we create and accumulate these sense impressions, and we create a story around them. This happened to me. I did this. I did that. Now, the fundamental inquiry is, who am I? Who is this person who thinks he is the doer or she is the doer? But that inquiry is very complicated, very tough for most people, you see. So sometimes you have to give them the, space to consider that. It is not we who can bring that inquiry in them. It is the source. Source only starts the seeking. Source only ends the seeking, not the individual. No guru, no teacher has the power to end anybody's seeking, to end anybody's misery. It is only the source that can do that. All the teachers can do is simply give pointers. So maybe, perhaps it is your nature to give pointers, so you are doing that. So when you see around yourself, right, we see separation in appearances. If we say no, there is no separation, then we are deluding ourselves. Then that is a delusion. If I hit a wall with my hand, it is going to hurt my hand. This is life. This is dual. I can't say that wall and I are one, right? But the thing is, the recognition is very different, because everything is appearing in your consciousness. The wall appears in my consciousness. The pain appears in my consciousness. The action that is happening appears in my consciousness. So the mind that initially starts as a concentrating mind. In other words, we live our lives concentrating on things, whether it is studies, spirituality, whatever. So we are conditioned to concentrate, right? So this concentration keeps the subject alive, right? Because there has to be a person to concentrate on something, on an object. But what happens with the understanding that there is no individual here? This concentration expands, and it expands to such an infinite scale that the sense of personal identification, the belief, the person which was actually focusing or concentrating earlier, that person also becomes an object in manifestation. So then there is just pure seeing. There is no seer of anything, which in Vedanta they say it like this also, that seen and the seer becomes one. The seer is the seen, right? So the thing is that if someone believes that, they have done a lot of, they have gone through a lot, you see, it's like this. Now, I sometimes speak to people personally, and sometimes they come to me with their problems, that this has happened, that had happened. What I realize is that most people are not looking for solutions. They just want to speak. They just want a touch. So if you are simply just being there with them and simply listening to them, sometimes that is the greatest act of compassion. So don't think that if you have not said something, right, if you've not given them some pointer, then you have not done anything. What is meant to happen for that individual through you will happen, and it will be done by the source. So this concept says that the inquiry cannot be forced, because force means concentration. Force means effort. And when the effort is there, the subject will remain intact. That is why, when we started the session, I said that you don't have to concentrate on any particular thing in meditation. You can just, you can open your eyes, or you can even move around if you don't feel like. You can just, block your screen, and then you can close your video, and then you can do some things and then come back. Now, you see, when the mind is given this kind of flexibility, then it doesn't revolt. You see, this is a trap. If I tell you, no, you have to fix your concentration, you don't have to move a muscle while meditating, then you will definitely do that. Then you will never remain seated, right? So the mind is not to be challenged, because fighting with the mind is a futile battle. It can never be won. So allow the mind to do whatever it wants, and then it will have nothing to do. So I hope this helps.
So one more doubt I have.
Yes, please.
Just 1 minute, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Thing is, when I just close my ears, sir, I hear some hear some sound. I don't know what is it actually, but when I type this "Who am I first met a person, Sandeep Maheshwari, where I started my journey of spirituality. The thing is, he says it is sound of silence. And whenever I close it, or whenever I am in a space of there is no sound, I hear this sound very frequently. It is not from a memory, but even now I can hear it, and it is there in my in the background. To know that it is me, I'm getting stuck.
It is not me. That sound is the sound of your being.
Yeah, but
that is the sound of the vibration, not of the person. That is the sound of being. And, in the scriptures, they call it anhadnad, right? So, I used to hear this sound, and for a very long time, I thought that maybe it's tinnitus. There is a problem called tinnitus, where the ear starts ringing.
Yes, sir.
And I have a little bit of tinnitus in one of my ears. So, but then I would hear the sound all the time. So I looked up, and what the scriptures say about the sound is that it is the unstuck sound, anhadnad. Normally the sound is created when we clap, right? When two objects, collide, they create the mechanical energy and the air. I'll tell you a very interesting story. My daughter one day asked me, she said, "Papa, where does the sound come from?" So I started giving her the science, I clap my hands, and then, the mechanical pressure creates the air pressure, and then it reaches your ear, and then it hits this and that. She said, "No, Papa, I'm asking, where does the sound come from?" And, that kept me thinking. This is actually a very deep question. Where does the sound come from? We know the mechanics. We know that we can, clap our hands or do, hit the drum. But where does the sound come from? That is the question. It can only come from silence. Where else can it come from? So what you are hearing is the primal sound. So does that help?
Sir, something got cut.
I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, even I can hear you.
Yeah. So this was your, so this is the sound. Actually, Radhika, we all hear this sound. We all have this sound. It is not that it is selective. It's just that most of us are so busy in our day-to-day living with the cluttered mind, that we don't pay attention. But if you're absolutely silent, and sometimes, in meditation, you do hear this vibration, and it is not coming from your ears. if you notice, it is just a vibration that is emanating.
Mm.
Again, I mean, these are some controversial topics, this is something which science as yet has not explored in depth. However, there are researches going on in this area as well. Because I was watching one video that was showing that there is a sound that emanates from the nervous system. There is a subtle vibration that emanates from the nervous system. It is not from the ear. But again, I don't know much about it, so I can't speak on that. So this is what you're experiencing at this moment?
Even now I can hear it, sir. I just
Yes.
sometimes I fear to hear it also. So I just go from it. I mean, like, first
No,
I wanted to
there
hear.
is
Now
not,
I feel, why do I hear this?
there's nothing to fear. There is nothing to fear. It is just the sound of our being. It is our sound of our aliveness.
You're so clear in telling that it is the sound of our being,
Yes.
but I am not even, maybe this is also mind stuff. One
No,
person
you see,
near to it.
when your mind is more and more quiet, you will hear it louder. It will
Yes,
also,
yes.
it's not that the
Night
sound is becoming loud. It's just that the mind is becoming still, so this vibration is being heard aloud.
When I'm in my bed at night time, I hear it very loud. I'll be like, okay, I should go to sleep.
In Sikhism, the Mool Mantra, the first mantra, it starts with Ek Onkar. Ek one, Onkar. Onkar is Naad, sound. It starts with that. And the rest of the Gurbani is just an explanation of that, Ek Onkar, Satnam. So it is the sound of our being. Okay. Okay, anybody else wants to ask anything or share anything? Okay, I think then we can conclude this session and we'll meet next week. Next week will be the last Sunday session. After that, we will have 2 talks next month because I'll be doing a bit of traveling, so I may not be available every week, but there will be 2 talks next month. And, if you have joined the WhatsApp group or if you're on the email list, you will receive the notification for that. Okay. Thank you so much.